Hello everyone, and welcome back to another edition, of course, of the Misfits Racing League. We are here for round 17 action. It is the club division, and it is the fifth and final Russian Grand Prix of the week. Joining me for all of it, of course, as always, Unicorn. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. This is obviously the final. It's been an exciting week of Russian Grand Prix, and the club division always a very, very tightly knit group of drivers, and it's always a very exciting race to end the week on.
The sandbox, as we call it, it's got a little bit of everything from every division. We've got a ton of pace on this grid. Of course, 18 turns here around Sochi. It has provided us with quite a dynamic week of racing, I have to say. We'll have to see what the weather throws into the equation today, as well, as we haven't really had that much rain come through here. And maybe these guys will get the, well, unlucky end of the draw for that. But let's take a look, of course, at the calendar. We're here for round 17. It's Friday the 13th day, and coincidentally enough, we've got 666 members in the Discord at present, so it's kind of spooky if you're superstitious. But of course, we've got round 18 next week, Japan. Following that, we have USA, of course, the United States Grand Prix for round 19. It's Mexico for round 20. Then we have Brazil, and then the season's finished in Abu Dhabi, round 22. That is December 18th. We have so much racing action left. We've had so much already, and I imagine we're going to see a ton of intensity in today's race as well. With that, though, let's look at the teams who are on the grid. You have quite the roster of drivers here in Club Division on a full-time level. We've got ZZ9 and Fraser over at Mercedes, Alex Bitto and Jake for Ferrari. We have Ben the Bear and Remco Van Putten over at Red Bull, Mito and Burke for McLaren, Seb and Zamis over at Renault, with Freeware and Finn at AlphaTauri. Urke Khan and Jones for Racing Point, with Shenji and Money for Alfa Romeo. We have Teom and Sever, Jinkari at Haas, Domi and Mammal rounding out the top 20. Oh, the 20, I should say, in this grid. Over at Williams. Take a look at the standings. Speaking of top 20, let's take a look at the top 5. ZZ9 and Alex Bitto have been deadlocked in this championship battle for that front spot. Round after round, they have done the tango here. They have been doing the dance all season long. ZZ9, 224 points, leading this championship right now. Alex Bitto not too far behind, only 8 points the difference in second position there. Shenji not too far behind there in third as well. Ben the Bear in fourth. Fraser, the other Mercedes, in fifth. And you can see it is a Mercedes-led championship at present, with Red Bull and Alfa Romeo not too far behind. Through report, of course, following Singapore round 16, Finn receiving 5 penalty points and a 5-second penalty for an unsafe rejoin. No order changes. Mito has received 2 penalty points for, of course, retiring on track. That is not something that we like. Being told as well in the chat that Domi is, interestingly enough, on the wheel as opposed to his regular device input on the pad. So we'll have to see how he goes here around Russia. He's had a very good week around here. We'll see if the wheel, well, throws things out anyway. Take a look now, as Finn's coming across telling us that was in Italy. But now let's take a look. That is it for us. I do believe we're ready to go racing here, Unicorn. And all the drivers to get in.
Yeah, I think we are just about ready. Waiting for confirmation. And there we are. Yeah, we've got 19 drivers tonight on the grid. So plenty of people to generate some action for us over around the Sochi circuit, and it's been a very interesting one this week. So Sector 3 in particular, it's somewhere you don't necessarily expect to see so much overtaken action, but throughout this week we've seen a lot of side-by-side battling going in through turn 15 and 16, so these races have been quite the unpredictable affair, and hopefully that's the same with tonight's race as well.
Dark here. A bit of overcast weather, it would seem, here in Sochi for the 5th round of the week. And with that, I hope maybe we'll see a little bit of a wet dynamic. We saw somewhat of a wet dynamic in a race yesterday where rain came for us at the end. But other than that, we didn't really see much rain this week. And, well, I guess it's been a relief for these drivers considering how much rain we saw through the week in Singapore. Next week, of course, we have Suzuka. Of course, if you're just tuning in, we have the Endurance Series tomorrow. That is at 11 p.m. GMT, if I'm not mistaken, and that is going to be a 100% endeavor around, well, my personal favorite circuit, not biased at all, of course, Canada. So that will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, Canada, one of those. It's just an all-round great track, and once you throw the 100% dynamic on it, very exciting. Very exciting. Looking forward to that one. As it looks like we might have that desync again between us and the drivers, as no one seems to be being very proactive right now on our end, but we have seen it where the lobby can be out of sync by a minute or a minute and a half.
Yeah, I hear an engine now. I think it's one of the Mercedes. I think it's Fraser, which tells me that there's going to be more engines down this grid that are going to be popping out. We'll take a look at the track map to see the first one out is going to be. A couple of cars down the way there. I think Jones or his teammate Burke might have come out ahead. The Racing Point leading us out of the pit lane here. It just doesn't want to let me switch to whichever one it is.
Yeah, it's Jones.
There we have it, the Racing Point. That is Jones leading us out of the pit lane. 18 minutes is the duration these drivers will have set. There is a little bit of a time desync for us here in the commentary end of things. Of course, if you're just tuning in, share that link. We've got 18 minutes to go before racing action gets going. And if this week's been anything to go by, you won't want to miss it. We've had everything from spins under safety cars to collisions under safety cars to a little bit of a wet weather dynamic to a ton of overtaking drama. The turn 2 realistically here in Sochi has been something very, very intense to see as these races have begun. Saw that big crash causing the safety car on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's with turn 1 being basically just, well, it is flat out. So, and you got everyone piling into such a tight right-hander that then swings into a left-hander of turn 2. It's a very, very interesting corner, and you just have to be a little bit careful going into it because you can cause those big incidents that you're talking about. So drivers need to be careful, but it also means that those further back on the grid can make a lot of places on an opening lap.
Jones, I believe, just invalidated on his way into his flyer. Fortunately for him, it didn't invalidate both laps, which is something that you can see happen here around Sochi. But now he's just come through that inside, utilizing a little bit of that curb, and that was turn 1. Here's turn 2, this hard-braking right-hander at the end of the long DRS straight, and then you come into this sweeping third turn here, this long left-hander where a lot of these drivers are going to be looking to hug that inside through into turn 4, utilizing that entry curb, that inside curb. And there's something we've seen a few times on exit through turn 4, utilizing a little bit too much of that curbing on the exit, and he's just run an invalidated lap.
Yeah, Manuel behind him's done a very similar thing. He's invalidated as well, so it's Fraser right now leading the charge for valid flyers in the Mercedes. And yeah, like you said, we've seen it all week long, this track. Some of the limits of where you can and can't drive have really been maximized, and in a lot of cases have been breached, and we've seen penalties play a huge role in some of these races, as well as just people struggling to get down a valid qualifying lap, and that can really hurt people around here at Russia, because once you've invalidated one, especially early in the lap, there's plenty of places to do it later in the lap as well. So if you correct one mistake, you do another later on in the lap, so it takes a little while for those who maybe haven't had the time to put in as much practice as they would have liked during the week. But Fraser keeping it valid so far. He is going to come around the final corner, and he opens qualifying with a 129.9.
Right across behind him, that's Domi. A 130.498 from Domi. As I said earlier, he has told us he's on the wheel today. NJ crosses quickest. It is a 129.891. Ducks, who's in a reserve capacity over at McLaren today, a 131.141. Of course, let's take a look at who's on this grid. We have Shenjay, Fraser, Domi, Ducks, Wisp coming across now, Jinakari, as well as Zamis on this grid. Remco Van Putten, Burke Khan, we have Jake, Jones, Freeware, Burt caught the get, which if I'm not mistaken may be Burke. Could be mistaken though, if someone can confirm for me. We have Finn, Astrodite, Mammal, Bido, and Brainstew on this grid. 19 drivers, and we've got 8 of them who have set times here so far. Things right now, gap to leader between the top 3 is just shy of a 10th and a half. It's the 2 Mercedes looking at the Alfa Romeo quite closely, and it's the other Alfa Romeo looking at them. There goes Brainstew. He crosses 4th quickest here. Burke Khan into 11th position.
Yeah, a lot of drivers invalidated that first lap. Freeware, Alex Bido, Mammal, we saw Jones, and a lot of them decided to just pull into the pit lane and retry on a fresh set of tyres. But it'd be interesting. I don't think we've had a weather report yet, but if we do see a wet end to qualifying, then these runs, obviously usually you'd wait till the last 5 minutes, and that's where you'd expect the fastest qualifying times to come in. But if there is rain coming at the end, opening laps are much more important than they are usually.
Here goes Jake now to the line. It's going to be from him in the Ferrari. It's good for P5, and there was another driver that just set a time ahead of him, and that was Finn. A 132.4 in the AlphaTauri. 6 drivers, excuse me, yet to set times here in this race. Remco Van Putten, Jones, Freeper, Astrodite, Mammal, and Bido, all among them. Alex Bido is currently on an outlap, an invalidated outlap at that. You can see the red track map here. Dux has now made it back into the session. Fantastic, but of course Alex Bido in that Ferrari as one of the championship leaders will be really wanting to get as close to ZZ9 as he can.
Yeah, I've had a lot more chatter in the Discord over the past few days about people talking, because obviously now it gets to the point where we are getting to the races that are deciding these championships, or at least eliminating those who can no longer stay in the running for the win. So that's playing on drivers' minds coming into these last few races. Obviously, there's 6 more, including this one, to go before we run out of Abu Dhabi, as Freeware starts to fly in lap, as has Mammal. But it is playing on the driver's mind, and I think that adds a little bit of pressure in the opening stages. You know, you have a bad race in Bahrain, you can regain those points elsewhere in the standings. You have a bad race at Russia, and it can kind of damage your chances quite drastically. So those in the top fight really need to be bringing their A game for these last few races.
Mammal, someone who we've seen since he has joined us here in the Misfits Racing League with extreme pace. Club, definitely a place for that pace to live, and we'll have to see what he's able to do here as he's on his first major flyer. Or is he? I don't understand it. It says that he's on a flyer. He's not utilizing any of that energy at the moment. Well, we'll have to check back in with him soon. Freeware, however, not too far behind him, is flying.
Yeah, Mammal invalidated his first flying lap. Not quite sure what he's doing at the moment. I'm pretty sure he has done an outlap ahead of Freeware, so that is a flying lap. Whether he just made a mistake that he's not happy with and is preserving the tyres in the ERS for another run.
I think that may be the case, as he's chosen to stay out here. He is going to have a time come up on board. What's it going to be from him? It's not going to be a super fast time. A 1:31.9 for him. Freeware has big plans. A 1:29.962. 4 milliseconds off of Fraser at the moment for the AlphaTauri. Alex Bido has come back into the pit lane, as Astrodite now in the Haas is going to be looking to come around. Both Mercedes are going to be beginning.
Alex invalidated it yet again, so he really is trying to push the limits of this track. But he needs to just get a time in, at least a comfortable one. Astrodite jumps into 9th, 1:30.9.
Jones on a flyer right now. He has yet to get a time onto this board. He's coming through sector 2. DRS wide open on the rear, tapping through turn 12 now into turn 13. Through the inside of 14 now. I do not believe I have received a weather report yet. I'm not entirely sure if you did.
I haven't seen anything regarding the weather and whether we're going to see rain here in qualifying or indeed the race.
Jones, P6 from him, a 130.4. Neatly done out of the racing point. Happy with that, considering he slots himself within 5/10 of the race leader. That is, well, the pole sitter, I should say. Genjay there at 129.891.
Yeah, it's close up at the top. We've got, what is that, 4 drivers within pretty much a tenth of each other. Up at the top, Brainstew not far behind them. So that top 5, very, very competitive right now. And a lot of drivers back out on flyers. Shenjay looking for a big improvement here. This
Wisp has had a big issue. We were riding on board with him. Even got a cheeky toe from Astrolabe, it would have seemed, and now he's missing a great portion of that front left wing. He's straight into the pit lane.
Shenjay has indeed improved. 3/10. ZZ9 improved to beat Shenjay, and then Shenjay just responded very nicely at 129.5. So he's torn the top 5 apart. Brainstew's invalidated his next flyer, so he needs to go around again. Dux is invalidated, as has his teammate Mert. Jinikari again invalidated.
A lot of drivers struggle over time this week with flyers here. Even Brainstew right now, he's just passed Alex and he's on his way into the pit lane now. Alex Bido, however, the runner-up in the Drivers' Championship presently here, going to be looking to set a very blistering time as he begins a flyer. 5 minutes remaining in this session. Rear wing now wide open on that Ferrari as we come through, tapping down through turn 1. In the long straight we go to turn 2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex is the only flyer out on track right now. Oh, apart from his teammate Jake, who is slightly down on his previous best time. Not by much, but he's still going to have to find a lot of time through sector 2 and 3 if he wants to jump up into that top 5.
Any of the drivers happen to be listening. Ooh, Alex Bido's not going to be too thrilled. He snapped that car into a crash, but he's validated. Any of the drivers happen to be listening to us here on the broadcast, please do us a solid. Let us know the weather in the Twitch chat, please. Because I am dying to know, and we will not be able to view those things on Steam presently. Not at the very least on my end. I don't understand why we don't get weather report as the commentators, if you will.
Yeah, it does seem a little foolish on Codemaster's behalf that we don't get that information. Alex Bido coming back into the pit lane again, and he's still yet to set a time. Remco Van Putten, though, has started a flyer.
Jones has come across to tell us that it is going to be a clear campaign today.
Well, we've seen the dry fairly frequently this week, and we know that the tyre strategy here, very popular soft, medium, one stop. We might see a few drivers outside the top 10 go for a medium soft, but those hards, apart from people who have problems in the early race, and by early race I mean the first 5 or so laps, other than that you don't really see them. Although Liam yesterday did pull off a rather impressive strategy where he started on hards and Remco Van Putten doing a very similar mistake to what we saw Alex Bido do on his previous attempt at the flyer. It's an invalidation into a wobble.
It'd be really something to see Remco Van Putten and Alex Bido start at the rear of this grid. We've seen them fight race after race this season. I would definitely consider them among 2 of the tightest rivals on this grid, Remco Van Putten and Alex. Not only on this grid, but in Tier 1 as well, and throughout a lot of the racing action we've seen them have, they've always been a thorn in each other's sides, if you will. Remco Remco Van Putten looks like he's going to stay out here to begin once again.
Well, even with a desync, the track now is at its optimum. We are going to start seeing people pour out of that pit lane. And right now, he's got fairly clear air, just one Mercedes ahead of him. And that's Fraser on an outlap, so he just needs to get a time on the board here in this Red Bull. Going down into turn 4, there's Fraser pulling off to the side to let him through. Just needs to make sure he can get through. Turn 9, it seems to be a problem for a couple of the drivers on this grid at least. We haven't seen quite as many big mistakes in qualifying. He has rectified his previous error, but yesterday we saw through setups costing drivers in qualifying. They were a little bit
very unstable.
It doesn't seem to really be an issue here this evening. I haven't noticed anyone seem to be really struggling. Obviously, we've seen Remco and Alex catch that curb through turn 9. Again, I think that's more just trying to take as much inside line and actually unsettled setup.
Well, the one thing is a lot of these drivers, as we've seen week after week, is they get a lot of practice in around a circuit by the time we get to this club division. Remco Van Putten, Alex. There goes Remco Van Putten now. He's 6 for the Dutchman. Alex has yet to come out of this pit lane to get a new time across, and there's a variety of racers coming across the line now. Dux improves by 4/10. The McLaren.
Jones on a flyer. Fraser's started one as well. Everyone getting ready, although it does seem that one of the...
Mammal has just jumped into 5th position here. A very massive improvement. It was nearly 2 seconds the improvement out of him to get into the 130 flat range here, and he is now quite tight to the front. 5/10, well, less than 5/10 separating him and the leader right now in Shenjie. Variety of drivers on outlaps now. Of course, there is a timing desync. For those of you tuning in, there is a desync between the time remaining on our screen and the time remaining for the drivers here. So you will see a few of these racers get final runs in. One driver who's on a final run right now, I imagine, will be looking to improve is Zamis. He's at a 130.563 right now. This grid is extremely tight. Extremely tight all the way through it. The gap right now, all the way from 1st down to 12th position, is 1.1, and we've seen how that can play a role here, especially in the opening phase of these races with the DRS and the gaps being quite tight still. Safety cars can play a role, especially when grids are these tight also. Penalties can come into the equation. So you love to see tight racing like this. Now Zamis coming down at the DRS straight, rear wing wide open.
Well, Fraser just invalidated his lap. He got a toe off of ZZ9 down that second DRS straight, but the invalidation, he got 3/10 gained. It probably would have been a very competitive time. I don't think he would have quite dethroned Shenjie, but would have been made his at least second row seat a lot more comfortable. Shenjie is back out.
Zamis with a major
ZZ9.
improvement. Zamis just moved into 6th position, right on the rear of Mammal by, I'm going to call it 0.02 of a second.
Freeware's invalidated his last attempt. Alex Bidone will not be selling a lap time.
That's that crucial spot where we saw him invalidate previous. We saw the Dutchman do it as well. There goes his teammate Jake into 9th position now. Astrodite's on a flyer coming down through that section. He made it successfully through where Alex crashed, so he'll be able to get a time in. We'll see if it's impeded him. I think it might have, to be very honest. He's down coming into Sector 3. Not going to be thrilled about that. And there goes Brainstew across the line. It's pole position. We caught him as he was just coming across. There goes Shenjie, his teammate, and it's an Alfa Romeo 1-2 here so far. ZZ9 has something to say about it. Can he do something about it? No, he cannot. He improves and goes into that car at the line.
Yeah, Freeware invalidated and then spun it through turn 16, so He's still 5th on the grid without that final lap, but that mistake might demoralize him, so to speak, going into the race. You don't want to have your last vision of qualifying being an invalid lap that you then go and spin out on. So, sure, Freeware just needs to get into his race mentality right now.
This is an incredibly compact grid, I have to say. Shenjay and his teammate Brainstew doing very well in those Alfa Romeos to get into the front row. They have the Mercedes squad right behind them. Of course, Shenjay on pole position, Brainstew lining up next to him, his teammate DZ9 in the Mercedes in third, with Fraser, his teammate, lining up on the second row with him. Freeware, of course, partnering Shenjay in Tier 1. Rivals here in this one in 5th position. Mammal in 6th. Zamis in 7th. We have Jones in 8th. Jake in 9th. And Remco Van Putten rounding out the top 10 here. We will go down through the rest of this grid, of course, on the formation lap.
Yeah, and this is shaping up to be a very, very exciting race. The club division always super tight, and I think the opportunity to get these setups dialed in over the course of the week. You know, a lot of these drivers, they've already done a 50% race, and they can, iron out any problems they had with their setup throughout the race week to get here where they can put in. It's sort of like a rewind for them. They can just put in a race that maybe they would have wanted to earlier in the week, and it's just an interesting little challenge for them in the end, seeing who's perfected the track of the week, as it were.
Well, and that's exactly it. And some of these drivers have gone as far as racing it 4 times, I think. In Domi's case, I think he did the practice. I think he did EU. He did Oceanic as well, if I'm not mistaken. And here we have him. I think he's raced this 4 times, Domi, this week. I can't remember exactly which grids he raced in, but he has reserved. He is really wanting. He's done a lot of improvement this season for Domi. He didn't start as the fastest driver, but he's definitely become one of them. He's on wheel today, of course. He's in 11th position, so you're not seeing him near the front where you normally would. He's trying to make that transition from the gamepad to the wheel system, which is quite an adjustment, I can say from experience. Of course, Shenjay, Brainstew, the front row here in this one. Second row lockout for the Mercedes squad. You have Freeware and Mammal 5-6. Zamis, Jones 7-8. Jake and Remco Van Putten rounding out your 9 and 10 drivers here in this one on the grid. We have Domi in 11th, Dux 12th on the hard compound tires. Only one of 2 drivers on this grid on the hards. Of course, partnering him on that tire is Finn, but Wispin 13th position, Astrodate 14th. We have Mertkop to get in 15th position, as well as Jinkari, Burke, Finn, and Bido on this grid. Only 3 drivers starting on mediums out of 19, with 2 on the hards. That means we have 14 racers going around Sochi on softs, Unicorn.
I think, again, this leads to just they've already done the race, and they've seen how strong just a soft medium one stop, it almost seems. It just is the optimal strategy if you don't have to go onto the hard tires, which really can feel slow around many of these tracks in the 2020 game. You can avoid them at all costs. So here, soft medium as possible. I think they've all worked out over the course of the past week that it just makes it more comfortable drive for them. As Astrodite and Mert seem to have come together, they've both been DSQ'd from this session.
Well, drivers are lining up on the grid. Astrodite and Mert are going to be reset to the grid, and they're not going to have nearly as much temperature in those tires as I'm sure they would like, considering the fact that they're 14th and 15th, and there's a difference in tires as well for them, behind and in front. It's a unique position to be in. Alex Bido is starting at the rear of this grid on the softs. We'll have to see where he gets things. He has not been able to set a lap, and Alex Bido is, of course, the runner-up in the Drivers' Championship presently, but it is going to be the lights coming on now. Unicorn, take us away.
Well, here we go. We're getting ready. The lights have gone out for us, but not for the drivers. 2 Alfa Romeos are away, and here we go. Let's see what the Mercedes could do. It's Freeware as well, getting an excellent start. He's going to threaten both of the Mercedes. He's already passed Fraser on track. Fraser's had an abysmal start here. Can he slipstream down past ZZ9? He's got the outside going down towards turn 2. Brain Stew and Shenji still holding on to those top 2 spots, but it's Freeware coming past both Mercedes in the opening of this race. Jake, Remco Van Putten, and Domi are all up 2 positions as well. Zamas has had a bad start. Here goes Remco Van Putten. He's up the inside of the Williams. He's got past Jake for a 3rd place. Now Jake a little bit wide. That's going to open him up to Domi, and he is going to take 8th place from the Ferrari. So Jake gained 2 places and has lost them already, but
Alex Biddow's on a serious charger as well. He's about to dispatch Wisp down the inside. Does he get this move done? He's squeezing off Wisp right now. We're going to jump on with Jones as he's got the front row seat to this. I was watching it from an additional car back. I don't know why, but we're here on with Jones now. Alex Biddow started this race in 19th position. Now Jones under threat. There goes Astrodate around the outside. Does this open him up to both the Haas and the McLaren? They're still very, very tight in this. 3 wide coming down the straight now. That's the McLaren furthest to the inside. A switchback now from the racing point. He's wheel to wheel with the Haas. There's Astrodate on the inside of the McLaren in this fight.
Oh, Zamas has spun.
Oh, he's been hit in the rear. There's Burke Khan into the rear of that Renault. VSC has been deployed. We're going to take a look on board now with Zamas. Take a look at that front end to see if he's got any damage here. VSC has come out to really slow things down. Zamas looks like he's coming into the pit lane, so he is going to get some things switched on that front wing. He's missing that front left end plate, and something to talk about here is Alex Biddow has made up 10 positions inside of the first lap of this race, Unicorn. He is into, of course, 9th. He's looking at his teammate. That's Jake. Jake's not going to really give him a hard time.
Yeah, Alex is just on fire. When he's in this mood, he's not going to be stopped by much, but he has caught the rival that we were speaking about in qualifying. Remco Van Putten is his next target, and we've seen it time and time again. Remco Van Putten is not one that you can easily pass. His defensive ability is out of this world, and now this is going to be the biggest challenge I think Alex is going to have to overcome. The chaos of the first lap. No one's quite as packed as they were moments ago, so they're not trying to defend 2 or 3 people or trying to get past 2 or 3 more. Now it's just a one-on-one from here on out. Remco Van Putten versus Alex Biddow, and it's just... we've seen it before, and now we're going to get to see it again. It's always a joy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that things have spaced themselves out a little bit now with that VSC. Things were so tight off the line here, resulting in a little bit of contact. 6 drivers have had to come in for changes in some capacity, whether it be wings or new tires, something going on for them, maybe not liking things, but that opening lap always presents itself with a few issues. Only a VSC as well here in this one. We haven't seen that many physical safety cars this week. I will say this, the drivers coming into this knowing that the physical safety car is an absolute rarity around Sochi. It's VSCs more so than anything that we've seen, and as a result, we may not see this grid come together for a rolling restart in a safety car capacity, but there is going to be a lot of fighting still, as there's such a ton of pace and such a ton of opportunity for these racers. Alex Biddow keeping within half a second of Remco Van Putten for 7th position. DZ9 and Fraser are not going to be thrilled. They started this race 3rd and 4th on that 2nd row. Freeware has split them up between the Alfa Romeos, and those Alfa Romeos are doing quite well. Shenji leading this race right now by 1.1 on his teammate Brainstew. Brainstew essentially the anchor in that equation is going to have Alpha Tauri up their rear. The battle of the Alphas, if you will, in Freeware.
I think as well as no one inside the top 10 is on anything other than a soft compound tyre, so the strategies here are going to be similar, and we're going to see at least the Alfa Romeos as Alex Biddow, here he goes, he's finally got the run he needs on Remco Van Putten up the inside DRS, and even Remco Van Putten, he can't do anything to defend against that. The only defense he can put up here is a nice offense if he can get an exit out of the final turn and repay the favor down in towards turn 2, but he's got Jake behind him as well, so the 2 Ferraris giving Remco a little bit of a hard time as Shenji 134.6. All those lap times are crumbling down. DRS behind him, allowing the drivers behind to get those faster laps.
DZ9's got a run on Freeware, but it isn't enough to get him into that 3rd position once again, and there's going to be quite a few drivers looking for position. One of them is Jones up the inside now. That's Mert. A little bit of contact here. Still locking wheels, though, between these two. Drivers trying not to get penalties. Jones on these softs versus the mediums right now. They are battling hard. Brushing those wheels now. Of course, Mert holding on to that 11th position. We're going to see if Jones has another opportunity.
Yeah, I think once these DRS trains, they come into operation, it can be harder than it looks to overtake.
Mert's just taken a penalty. 3 seconds after multiple warnings. I do believe that was for an exceeding of the track limits. And we'll have to see if Jones knows anything about it. And it's something that we have seen this week, Unicorn, that we cannot deny. Penalties, as we say it. Jinkari now, Burke coming together, it would seem. Or something's happened there. Astrodate has been overtaken by Zamis. Zamis now. Or has Astrodate had an issue? But Zamis is looking at Burke Khan. Penalties coming up as well for a lot of these racers. We're only on lap 4. It's a decent size campaign here around Sochi.
Yeah, the battle for P2 as well is starting to heat up freeware. Pretty close to Brainstew, who isn't in DRS range of his teammate. Can Freeway get the run down into turn 2 that he needs? He's going to get close, but I don't think he's going to get close enough. And ZZ9 is on the rear of this as well. Jake getting very close to the rear of Remco Van Putten, and that's another Ferrari past the Red Bull. And Wisp might have a look here as well. Up the inside of turn 3, the Renault side by side with the Red Bull driver. Can he hold it tight enough? It looks like Remco Van Putten's just carrying a bit more speed later on the brakes as well. And he holds P9, but Remco struggling a little bit here around Sochi, it would seem.
That was very well held. Zamis now looking back at Burke. They're wheel to wheel right now. Zamis on the inside. Does he have the exit he needs to dispatch this racing point? They come down through the penultimate turn. The final turn, excuse me. This is going to give Zamis DRS on Burke's. Astrodate's going to have it as well. Now you can see the run. You can see the speed coming out of this Renault on the rear of this racing point. He's looking to the inside, but Zamis showing good patience here. He's going to wait to get the move done. Burke exceeds a little bit there. Now Zamis to the inside. Burke running quite wide through turn 3 here. Not utilizing the tight inside that much at all. Zamis now around the outside. So far he's got space, running off just a touch there. There's still wheel to wheel. You can just see the front wheels. Now Zamis around the outside. He's later on the brakes. Does he get Burke Khan? They're still exchanging wheel to wheel. Burke back out in front. A little bit of a tap.
And Expito's got his next target in sight as well. Mammal. Not a lot he can do to stop the Spaniard coming past. And Expito, what a race he's having right now. Up into 6th place.
Oh, right from him here so far. Jake and Van Putten are still battling. Van Putten tight to the rear. There goes Zamis clean through on Burke Khan. Burke a little bit later on the brakes now, tapping Zamis gently in the rear. Nothing unsettling that car just yet here though, and there it goes between Jake and of course Remco Van Putten. Wheel to wheel coming out of turn 4. Remco has dispatched the Ferrari for 8th position, but these two are going to continue to do the dance, and I imagine Remco Van Putten isn't thrilled that he's fighting Jake right now. He wants to be fighting that other Ferrari in Alex ahead. Meanwhile, ZZ9 still sticking like glue to that AlphaTauri ahead of Freeware, and Freeware holding him off quite well with that DRS utilization on the Italian Stallion ahead of Brainstew in that Alfa Romeo. And there's been another exchange. It seems Burke Khan has dispatched Zamis on the return into turn 2.
Yeah, a little bit of a problem with Discord there, but we are back. The connection is restabilized itself from Freeware. Very tight to the rear of Brainstew. He just needs a good run out of this last corner, and he's going to have a very easy time getting past the second Alfa Romeo. The first one, Shenjie, over 2 seconds clear of his teammate now, and here goes Freeware. We've seen it all race long, and I think we're going to see it for the rest of the campaign as well. This overtake with the DRS. Now that these trains are breaking up, it's becoming a little bit easier to get past your rival because the cars behind not posing too much of a threat, and there's not too much jostling for position. Jake, a little bit skew whiff out of turn 2, and that's allowed Remco Van Putten to gain a little bit of time ahead of him.
Whatever time he's gained, he's lost it there, Unicorn. He's just taken a 3-second time penalty, the Dutchman, after multiple warnings. So
Jones is out.
what
Jones
has
had a
happened
crash
to
through
him?
turn 2. I don't know
That's
how
a
he's done
safety
it.
car.
A full course safety car, but I mean, I'm not surprised. He's blocking the track quite substantially.
Well, isn't he? Look at that racing point there. And that's where we saw it happen earlier this week as well with one of the drivers. And that's where we saw it this season with Carlos Sainz have the major issue in the runoff area, misjudging the distance to the wall, I think it was, seeing the McLaren have those issues. So, not entirely sure what's happened to the racing point. Jones not going to be too thrilled about it. He was in a solid position. But this is going to be a full course safety car, and there's going to be quite a few winners in this equation. One of them is going to be Alex Biddo, I imagine. He's quite happy. So he's going to see what these leaders do, and he's just going to follow suit. He started this race. For those just tuning in, Alex Biddo has made up 13 positions. He started this race in 19th on the soft compound tires, and he's joined all of his lovely speed demons here in the top 10.
Yeah, and I imagine pretty much everyone here is going to come in for fresh tires. Now, the people who might lose out here, Fraser, Brainstew, they could get double stacked here. Fraser is getting double stacked. Brainstew as well. Brainstew not quite as badly as Fraser, but I think Alex gets another couple of places here because he's. Where is Brainstew hasn't lost out to Alex Biddo, but Alex now in 5th place after the pit window.
Fraser lost out, I think, the most there between the Mercedes. He's coming out in 8th position behind a very, very hard driver to pass. That is something that we can confirm. Remco Van Putten, he's one of the best around. And when it comes to his defense, I imagine Fraser isn't going to be even remotely thrilled about being behind the Dutchman right now, because he makes things quite difficult to get by, and that's going to lose Fraser a lot of time to the very fast drivers ahead. Shenjay has now had a disconnection of some capacity. We'll look to get him back in immediately, considering he is the leader of this race behind safety car. That AI going to do its job. But of course, if you're just tuning in, here's what's happened so far in this race. We've had a VSC. We've had a major jostle of position for a few drivers in this one. Alex Biddo from 19th to 5th has made up 14 positions here on lap 8. We are now under safety car conditions. Not entirely sure what took Jones out of this race, but his car was by itself through turn 3, just on the exit out of turn 2, with a significant amount of damage prompting this safety car to come out. We have 18 out of the 19 drivers that began this race remaining. And I will say this, we've had a fair amount of drama. You can see there the drivers in 14th down through 18th have all now come in for an additional pit stop, as we now have a little bit of shenanigans, it would seem, between some drivers being shown maybe some maybe Brainstew just nudged ahead of ZZ9 there a bit, not entirely sure. Unless he, or did ZZ9 just get ahead of Brainstew? I'm losing my I'm losing my place with where we were. I don't have intervals because somebody had to rejoin the lobby. Every time somebody rejoins the lobby, there is a desync, and now Domi's had an issue. Under these safety car conditions, I think he's on his way into the pit lane to repair damage.
And Shenjay's just been handed a 5-second penalty for collision with Fua, but it was just pretty much lightly tapping the rear of the Alfa Romeo, so I imagine.
Not sure what's happening with your mic there.
He can, if he's got...
You're getting a little bit of an issue. Not entirely sure what it is, my friend. And drivers right now, the top 10 all on mediums. You've got Mert and Jin Kari on hards, Finn on the mediums, then you have Ducks on hards, everybody else on mediums in this race. 3 hard runners in this entire campaign now.
Yeah, there we go. I think that's fixed the issue. But yeah, the hard runners, I think they're gonna have I don't think they're going to have the pace of the rest of these guys on mediums, and I think these mediums are going to carry these drivers perfectly to the end of this race. 20 laps on them. Definitely possible, especially with the safety car. They're going to be able to preserve the tyres for a few laps. So I think the hard tyres might have been a little bit of a mistake. Ducks, I think, his hand was forced. He pitted 2 laps ago for them, so I think he could have gone for mediums, but they would have been a bit of a bigger risk. But for the likes of Mert and Ginicari, I think mediums probably would have been the better call, much like everyone else on this grid.
Most definitely. Race control telling us that the safety car will be coming in this lap, and it is now up to Shenjie to set the pace of this grid through to the start-finish line when he will begin green flag racing for this grid once again. And the last time we saw Shenjie lead a safety car restart, if I'm not mistaken, was Singapore in Tier 1, where him and Brainstew, rivals in that division. Brainstew took a win as a result of that, if I'm not mistaken. Shenjie had an issue on the exit beginning that lap. I do believe he has now hammered down the throttle, though. He is going to take off out of the penultimate turn here. And we are back to green flag racing. And who's tightest on this grid? I think it might be either between Alex Biddo. I think it is Alex Biddo having a great run on Brainstew. But nobody close enough just yet to make any moves on this grid. Burke Khan actually looking at Ducks quite closely. Zamis behind this, now around the outside. Here we go with Burke. Ducks has had an issue on the exit, and this is going to give Zamis a look, and Zamis is going to come around the inside now. Ducks holds it for the moment. Mammal has been overtaken by Remco Van Putten. Now Remco Van Putten does have his eyes on that ideal rival of his in the Ferrari. But he's got to watch Mammal on his rear as well. Mammal not going to go down easy, I imagine.
Yeah, it was a super nice move for Remco up the inside of turn 4. Wisp as well has got Jake hunting him down, as well as Fraser looking at the Williams. Already been taken by one driver off of this restart. Is Fraser going to be able to find a way past as well? I imagine if he can, it's going to be down to that long run into turn 2.
Damas is looking at the McLaren of Duck still. He's keeping quite tight to the rear, and he'll be happy that he's on some mediums compared to those hards right now. So tight once again, and this is what I think the safety car, that's what we like to see with the safety car, is getting this grid back bunched up now. The Freeware collecting that fastest lap of 134.377 as out of the final turn, turn 18 now. It is the Mercedes of Fraser absolutely hunting down the Williams of Mammal. Mammal holding it, planting that car on the inside, trying to give a little bit of a squeeze to the Mercedes. Now wheel to wheel coming through turn 2. On the inside is Fraser. Jake behind them having a wheel to wheel exchange with Wisp, and Jake's taking a penalty as a result of this exchange, and Fraser and Mammal are still fighting here as Fraser has now made it into 7th position. There is Wisp and Jake still exchanging wheel to wheel. It's the battle between the two Swedish drivers right now, the Ferrari and the Renault, and there's a little bit of contact causing Jake to run offline. The McLaren of Mert is looking at all of this behind not too far as well. And there's just been a lot of intense exchanges on this grid here so far in these 11 laps of racing that we've had so far, Unicorn.
Yeah, Jake's been very close to, I mean, it's been these guys very, very well played to keep both cars pointing in the right direction. Up inside of turn 4 was a bit touch and go, but they managed to keep it going, and they did it all the way through turn 5 as well. So Jake and Wisp, very, very intense battling, and I'm sure it's going to be fairly taxing on their concentration levels, as we are now, you know, approaching that halfway mark in a couple of laps' time.
Well, and something else is the safety car constantly throws off the rhythm of these racers as well. Sanjay, 133.986 from him. That fastest lap.
Yeah, he's been so quick. We have got DRS back enabled as well, so all of these drivers now able to utilize that drag reduction system. Open up that rear wing, get some additional speed down the straights on the cars ahead. But obviously right now, as a result of that safety car, like you said, everyone's bunched up. So we're going to have the reformation of these trains. Jake still tight to the rear of Wisp.
Domi and Ducks wheel to wheel right now, of course. Domi down the inside. Does he get this move done? He gives that McLaren a good squeeze. I don't know if he'll be able to hold this, though. Now to the outside is the McLaren. Through turn 5, nothing doing. Domi is in 15th position. Jake still stuck onto the rear of that Renault in Wisp, looking for P9, and we have tight battles, tight trains, as you say, all through this grid now.
And we'll get to the point where they will start peeling apart. You can already see there's a gap, a train forming from first down through fifth, and then Remco Van Putten sort of dropped off the rear of Alex Biddo, where he and Fraser have both got past Mammal, so there's that battle there, and this is what happens when we get these pockets of battles going on everywhere around the track after these restarts. The different groups of drivers starting to separate away from each other.
Curious to see if Jake has a decent enough exit out of 18 here to get Wisp, but it doesn't look like he's going to. He just may. He's got a lot of speed down the straight here. Does he have a look to the inside? Yes, he does. Wheel to wheel now. Still so tight between these two. Remco Van Putten and Fraser. Look at them in a moment here, but this is wheel to wheel exchanging between the Ferrari and the Renault. Now the Ferrari to the inside. Jake now on the inside. Does he get this move done? No. It's still Wisp holding on to ninth. Still exchanging wheel to wheel. A little bit of contact now. So tight.
Wisp very much on the track. Both of these drivers have picked up penalties as a result of this battle, and I don't think that it's not going to help them towards the end of this race, because they're battling for the final points position. So, well, they're battling for P9 as is that Freeware and ZZ9 are side by side going through turns 13 and 14. It is Freeware coming out on top of that one. Speaking of AlphaTauris, Finn getting passed by Mert in the McLaren, but he might have a nice little switchback here, and he does, back into 11th place for the AlphaTauri. The McLaren holding around the outside though, and he goes back through, and it looks like he's going to hold 11th for now, and he's going to have the inside line through the penultimate turn, but he's gone wide. Can that give Finn the run he needs out of the final turn to get DRS? It's not. Mert getting a much better exit.
Well, I don't know if he's going to have a good enough exit to hold off the DRS here. Finn now breezing by into 11th position. Damas is also getting ahead of somebody. Made it ahead of... Did he make it ahead of Domi?
He was up the
there?
inside. He braked early. He didn't want. He didn't want to go. He was going 3 wide, but Zamas knows that 3 wide into turn 2 is not how you want to play things.
Zamas is a very patient driver, very calm, collected driver. He does what he can, and here he has another look up the inside. He's dispatched Mert. He almost had 2 and 1 there through turn 5. Now Finn is under major threat, and Zamas says, back off, McLaren. It's my turn. You've been taking all day. So now it's Zamas. He wants that 11th slot.
Yeah, Zamas, he knows that patience is really very critical skill for these drivers that haven't. He's just shown a textbook example. He didn't want to go 3 wide into turn 3 very early on the brakes, and now he's got both of them later on in the lap. So now Zamas up into P11.
Just Zamas is putting on a
driving
clinic.
from him.
He's putting on a clinic today on how to drive patiently, and he did it very well there. He's dispatched 2 cars inside of a few turns, picking and choosing his battles appropriately. And speaking of picking and choosing battles, Domi has done well here. He's just slipped the McLaren into 13th. Now it's Mert looking back at him to the inside. Jumping onto the front of things in this grid for a moment's time. Let's take a look at Alex Biddo. He is not going to catch up with Brainstew just yet in this battle. We're going to flip back now as we have DRS down into turn 1. Well, turn 2, excuse me, for a lot of these racers. Domi is going to be on the rear of Finn, trying to catch things up, of course. Finn on the rear of Zamas now, and these drivers are going to be looking to train each other along into those points positions. Right now, Wisp in that Renault is holding on to 10th position. His teammate Zamis is the one behind him. See if team dynamics come into play or if Wisp is going to be able to catch up with Jake, but at the moment, he's just fallen out of DRS while Domi sticks within half a second of P12.
Yeah, I think that safety car it's leveled the playing field as well in terms of the tyres. Pretty much everyone on identical sets of rubber. Domi, he has a set of tyres that are 1 lap fresher than most of these drivers, whereas Zamis 1 lap older. So we'll have to see whether Domi's tyres, maybe in those last few laps, they hit the cliff just a tiny bit later. And here goes Domi around the outside of Finn into turn 13. Can he get this move done? The Williams now up into P12. Very nicely done from him.
Riding on with some of the drivers in the front to see if they were able to get any exchanges done, but it looks like they haven't. And as they were going through this circuit, Domi with a little bit of neat and tidy fireworks on Finn there. Mammal now hunting down Van Putten with DRS. Van Putten has DRS on the car ahead. Fraser putting a little bit of a kink in this chain behind, of course, P5 and Alex Biddo. And the Dutchman and Mammal want a taste of some further points. A little bit of lag coming out of Mammal's car there. Zamis has just taken a 3-second time penalty after multiple warnings, and that's something that continues to come up from race controllers, these penalties, as Finn and Mert are battling wheel to wheel now. Mert around the outside. Is he going to have that inside lunge into turn 4? Yes, he is. There's a little bit of contact now, an end plate coming off, and Astrodite is on the rear of this. He is now ahead of the McLaren as well, taking advantage of that little bit of contact. Now on the inside is Astrodite. He's going to take Finn just the same, and Astrodite going to be quite thrilled that he was able to make up a couple of positions there from the AlphaTauri and the McLaren, and he's already pulling away from these two.
Yeah, again, that's what we were talking about with Zamis. He didn't do what Mert did. He didn't go for the dive that he shouldn't, and that's where things start to pay off. You know, Mert wouldn't have lost that end plate. He wouldn't have let Astrodite through, who's now up into 13th, but you can see sometimes there may be that open door, but it's not always best to put your car into it. If it's not 100% certain you're going to make it, it's just unnecessary risk sometimes. So here goes Mammal though on there. Remco Van Putten. Remco does have DRS on Fraser, and that is just keeping him in that 7th slot right now. I think without it, Mammal would have just breezed by the Red Bull, but Fraser just picking up a 3-second time penalty, doing very well to hang on to 6th right now, but they are dropping off the back of the top 5 pretty substantially.
Well, a very tight battle between these drivers in this midfield.
Yeah, but again, these DRS trains make it just super difficult, as well as no one having a tyre advantage over anyone else, and that's not something that is very common. Obviously, a safety car coming in at pretty much the perfect pit window for most drivers. Not something that happens often, but when it does create this dynamic, as Zamis having a look at his teammate. Wisp, not a lot he can do, pulls over, lets Zamis through, but he'll try and stick with his teammate and get him back down into the run of turn 2. It's such a popular overtaking spot, and it's so exciting to see that being used as well. Finn having a little bit of trouble. Is that going to allow Burke Khan through? I don't think it is. And Burke having a little bit of a wobble of his own, and Ginicari looking up the inside. Again, sector 3, super difficult to try and find a way through.
Alex Biddo is just sticking so well with Brain Stew here. Of course, if you're just tuning in, my name is Strifium here from Canada. Of course, joining me is Unicorn in the UK. And we're here for Russian GP action. It's the Club Division, the 5th Russian Grand Prix of the week. Of course, all of the content, all of the replays from the live broadcast that we are having here can be found on the YouTube channel. All of the highlights, circuit guides, top 10 videos, and things of such can all be found on the YouTube channel. Head on over there, subscribe. We got a lot more content coming, podcasts, things like this, interviewing streamers, racers, all of the kind. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Of course, hit that follow button here on Twitch for all of the live action, as we've got tons more racing to come to you. We have 5 divisions racing around here each week, plus the endurance series, plus. You take your pick. We've got it all. 100% race coming to you tomorrow at 11 p.m. GMT, going around Canada. And of course, Unicorn, you and I will be in the booth for that.
Yeah, those 100% races are always a fun one when we do those. It's, you might not think that adding, just the same amount of laps would change the dynamic quite as much as it does, but obviously tire scaling is done differently, strategies are completely different, and it's just a wild rate, especially when we see new names as well, who we don't have any experience of commentating. We're not used to their driving styles, like Remco Van Putten. We know he's an excellent defensive driver, things like that. We don't have that information when someone new in the Discord just signs up for those 100% races, so they are a very, very interesting spectacle to watch.
Yeah, of course. These races are streamed on Twitch, not YouTube. YouTube isn't that great for streaming, in our opinion. We're actually not allowed to stream to both, to be very honest with you. We can't stream to both, and Twitch is the better platform, so that's why we're choosing to stream here. You heard it here first, of course. We wish we could, but we can't. You gotta pick one or the other, and I'll tell you something. The Twitch community for Formula 1 is a heck of a lot of fun, as now it's Berke Khan going around Gianakari, Finn in this equation as well, and there's a yellow flag coming up through Sector 2. What has happened now with Brainstew and Alex Bitto have had an exchange? A VSC has been deployed, and the entire front wing on this Alfa Romeo is missing here, Unicorn.
Domi was pointing the wrong way as well, down that big DRS straight. So now it looks like a few drivers are coming in for presumably softs to the end. I don't think Fraser was forced to do this. I think he's just come in for the softs, and he wants that tyre advantage. It's a risky strategy, especially given that it's a VSC, not a full safety car as well. And we'll have to see if he can fight his way back up this grid. It's going to be a tough challenge, but a few drivers opting for it.
But an interesting strategy option out of these on the softs. They burn out fairly quick. They're going to be dead by the end of this race. But will they be enough for these drivers to get some serious position? Brainstew has come out in 17th position behind a ton of traffic.
I want to see what happens with these soft runners. It's going to add a very interesting dynamic. These two McLarens ahead of Fraser. They're going to have to watch out. They're both on hards as well.
Brainstew's just taken another end plate off, I think. Was that Brainstew's end plate? Yeah, it was. He brushed wheels. Wow, he is not going to be thrilled at all. Oh, and there goes a big crash for Berke. Yeah, he's had a massive crash. And that's where I think we saw Alex Bitto have an issue in qualifying as well. Just coming out of, well, what is that then? That's
it's turn 8 and 9.
8, 9, that little sequence there, yeah.
I don't know how he didn't look like he hit the curb. It just looked like the rear end just stepped out without him making any visible mistake. I'm very confused as to what happened with this car though. I don't know whether he's got overheated tires or whatnot, but such a freak incident for Berke Khan then. At such a late stage in the race as well. It's pretty much race over because he's gonna have to pit to repair that significant damage on that front wing. So that's
Fraser,
super unfortunate.
The inside now looking at Ducks. Does he get the move done? Yes, he does. Very clean operation coming out of the Mercedes there. Brainstew has made it ahead of Finn as well, just behind them. And now Berke Khan has retired the car in the pit lane. So that is both racing points out of this session now.
Fraser having a little bit of contact with Mert there, and Mammal. Fraser's going to be wary of him because he's going to get past Ducks in a very similar fashion, I think, in not too much time. So Fraser can't be making risky moves like that. Mammal picking up a 3-second time penalty, though. And these soft runners starting to carve their way up the grid, and they're just being held up by these McLarens here. They just need to... They've got the tyre advantage. They're going to have the pace onto these DRS straights. They just need to... Again, patience is so key. Fraser's done it. It's turn 13. Mammal, a little bit of dive up the inside, and it's nicely done from the Williams. He takes 12th place, and he needs to try and get past Mert here as quickly as possible. Jake comes into the pit lane. Is there damage on that Ferrari, or is he just coming in for some fresh softs? There's no damage, it's just a tyre change.
MRL Tier under such threat from Mammal. Jake has come in. Where is he going to fall out in this grid? And I'm a little curious as to why he's come into the pit lane. Did he
I think
damage?
he's just served the 5 seconds.
Oh, so
not 5 seconds. I think he's served the drive-through because he hasn't changed tyres.
Oh, wow. He's not
I
even
think he had to do that.
At all. Serving a drive-through penalty. I'm not... Sorry, I will be very honest. I was trying to catch up with our lovely viewers in the chat when he might have taken that.
Yeah, I didn't see it either, actually. I'm going to... What did he pick that up for?
Of course, to everybody in the chat who is viewing along, welcome in. And there goes Mert into the wall. What a massive issue for the McLaren. Oh, no. That was a big crash for him, and that is his race. Well, that is his entire front wing, we'll say, gone on that McLaren.
Ooh. Had he lost any more of his car, I think that would have been a full course caution.
Yeah, via C at the very least. Perhaps even we're still in the threshold of a safety car, I think. I don't think it's until lap 24 that we're going to see that possibility entirely disappear. Rainstew now up the inside of Ducks. Rainstew, of course, he has got that front left damage.
Yeah, the fresh softs, though, really providing him the extra traction that he needs, and everything's sort of petering out a little bit. Everyone, these tyres, the situation, that safety car at the start really, well, not the start, sort of, what, it would have been about lap 7, I want to say, that we got that. Really just came at such a great opportunity. Alex Bitter right now in P4. We got his race, 15 places gained.
Nakari, Finn wheel to wheel right now. Finn with a big cut. Here goes Jinkari through now. Finn trying to fight wheel to wheel as he had to come through the runoff. Jinkari is going to have the inside into the next turn here. There goes Jinkari. 14th position for him now. Is Finn going to have a look back to the inside? No. Like that is 14 secured now. Fraser on these softs now, hunting down Astrodite.
Seeing Wisp pick up that penalty there. I just had a look at the penalty situation for the top 5 as Astrodite and Fraser have exchanged positions. Fraser's soft tyres getting him another position. The top 5, Remco Van Putten, the only person with any penalties there. He has 3 seconds. Shenji did have 5 seconds, but he's pitted since then, so the game probably forced him to do that. And that's a Williams. It's Domi.
Yep, we're seeing why he plays pad right now.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage on that front wing.
Got a lot of work to do to get into the wheel range of his pad skills, that's for sure. A lot of drivers have been calling him out on it.
Jinkari on the rear of Finn. Looks like he's going to have a nice little run down towards turn 2. It's hards versus mediums, and the hards probably now just starting to come to their own, but it's very, very wide for Jinkari, and it's so easy to pick up a track limits through there. He has got the move done, but Finn not going to give up too many. There's another yellow flag. I think that might just be Domi struggling through the 3rd sector. Finn picks up 3 seconds, going a little bit wide through turn 4. Looks up the inside. That was probably another warning, I would imagine, taking a huge amount of that
It looks
inside
like
curb.
they're just having some fun there, the two of them, because they've been battling now for quite a few laps. Jinakari, so far, he is ahead in 14th. We saw him come ahead in 14th out of turn 4 last lap around as well. Now we're going to come down into the DRS zone, and of course, Finn going to be able to utilize that. Jake now in ducks, excuse me, at the end into 13. There goes Jake ahead into 12th position.
Domi has retired his car in the pit lane. Not going to be soldiering on to the end of this race, and all of Williams' hopes now lie on Mammal, who is in that final points position. He joins the 2 racing points as the 3 retirements now of the race.
Mammal in a very good position to pick up an additional point here off of the Haas of Astrodite. Fraser hunting down Wisp as well, just the same for an additional 2 points. We're on lap 25 out of 27.
Yeah, and Fraser's choice to go into these softs seems to be paying out, and that's a lovely run out of turn 7 for the Mercedes, and Wisp tries to hold it around the outside, but I don't think there's a lot you can do to stop the soft compound tyre. I don't know who's going to get DRS though. I think it might have gone to Wisp, but I think the traction of the softs and the exit that Fraser's got is going to hold him off. It's going to be tight though. But Fraser stays into P7. Very nicely done from him.
He's managed to hold off Mammal into turn 13 here, but Mammal, you can see through these turns, showing a lot of grip. A ton of traction, 13 lap difference, soft rubber. Into turn 17. Now coming out of turn 18, this is where the exit's going to be crucial. I mean, I think he's just going to get Astrodite here. Look at the power, look at the traction on exit. DRS now going to come in 100 meters. Utilizing that battery. We're on the penultimate lap of this race, and you can see the switch to Astrodite to the inside. Nothing he can do here against Mammal, but he can do one thing, and that is do his best to keep things as clean as possible. Penalties could play a role, and he could net positions. Things are quite tight between these drivers. 3-second penalties. I imagine this grid is riddled with them. There's Jake and Ducks continuing to do the dance through turn 2. Ducks in 12th position, holding off Jake. Jake on the inside right now. It's an exchange wheel-to-wheel between the Ferrari and the McLaren, and it's the McLaren up the inside into turn 4. Holding back is Ducks, and Jake's just taken in another 3-second time penalty here, as Finn and Jinakari have appeared to have exchanged as well. Once again, they're fighting.
Yeah, penalties. I think they will play a role, but not a huge one. The gaps are big enough, I think, that we might see 1 or 2 positions gained by a couple of the drivers, but mostly I think like the top 4, where gaps are small enough that could change positions for points. All of them clear at the moment. Remco has a 3 seconds, but so does Zamas behind him, and there's a gap there. Zamas might be in a little bit of danger from Fraser. That could be the biggest upset we see here in terms of penalties, especially if Fraser can continue to close, because he is still on those soft compound tyres compared to Zamas' 19-lap-old mediums.
Mammal now, he dispatched Astrodite last time around. This time it's Wisp's turn. There goes Mammal now. He went from 10th to 9th to 8th inside of a lap.
Yeah, I think Mammal and Fraser did make the right call into the softs.
It's a hit and miss equation, I think. It depends on penalties and where they land, because if I'm not mistaken, they were both in better running positions. Well, Fraser wasn't. I think he's made his way back into 7th position. I saw him come out in 7th position when we had the safety car. Mammal, I think, has lost out here. I don't think the softs gave them as much of a pace differential to the mediums, not like how we've seen it in previous circuits. Like Singapore, for example, fresh softs versus older tires was very, very fast. Shenjie, however, crossed the line first here in Russia. Freeware followed him. ZZ9 behind him, and you can see the penalties played a massive role in Shenjay's case. There goes the win out the window for him. Freeware collecting the checkered flag in first position as a result of the penalties. There's ZZ9 in second position, and Alex Bido, after a superlative drive, a superlative campaign for the Spaniard, 16 positions, most definitely driver of the day in his case, collecting third position in the Ferrari as well. That is your podium, Shenjay. After a very good lead of this race, penalties plagued him. He crossed the race first here. However, fourth position for him. Remco van Putten in fifth, Zamis in sixth, Fraser in seventh, Mammal in eighth. We have Wisp in ninth, and Astrudite collects the lone single point in 10th position here in this one. What a race it was.
Yeah, Shenjay there. I don't know what is going to happen. It depends what happens with this penalty. Obviously, Alex Bido picks up driver of the day. Absolutely incredible pace to cut us through the grid. Well, I don't know whether Shenjay was just demoted there because of that 5-second penalty, got under safety car, which, depending on how the stewards view it, might be able to get it. But he also had one before that as well that he did serve, so might not stand. That could be a very interesting one for the stewards. But right now, like I said, Freeware takes the top spot.
I imagine Freeware is going to be laughing at that, considering it's him and Shenjay teammates on a regular basis for Tier 1. But there we have it. Freeware from 5th to the win for the AlphaTauri. The German driver going to be thrilled about that. His fastest lap in this campaign was a 1:34.050. ZZ9 on the podium as well, collecting that second slot from 3rd. And it's Alex Bido from 19th position in the Ferrari to 3rd. You love to see it. Shenjay in 4th, Remco van Putten in 5th, Zamis in 6th. Fraser collects the fastest lap of this campaign, a 1:32.694, giving Mercedes an additional point as well in the Constructors' Championship. Mammal in 8th, Wisp in 9th, and we have Astrudite rounding out the points here in this one. What a race it was. That's all I could say. It was very, very fun, very dynamic. We had the safety car, a couple of VSCs, a little bit of drama. And that's what you like to see with racing, especially in the virtual space. So we hope you all enjoyed it. We are going to be rating a member of the Formula One community in just a moment's time, so don't go too far. Of course, we do have more racing action tomorrow at 11 p.m. GMT. That's 5 p.m. CST for those in North America, or 6 p.m. EST. That is going to be a 100% distance race with what I do believe will be a full grid around Canada. And a little birdie told me that it is due to rain in that race because those races, for those that weren't aware, copy the weather for what would actually happen on race day. Unfortunately, we can't do the Turkish Grand Prix. We don't have it in the F1 game, but we can provide something quite fun just the same. And I think Canada, with the regular corner cutting that we employ on those Endurance Series races, would be quite fun for these drivers, considering how they go with the strict rules on a regular basis. We've already seen that this season, of course. You can find all the Canadian Grand Prix videos on the YouTube channel, just as well as all of the other racing action and highlights, as well as guides for all of the circuits that we visit. But with all that being said, Unicorn, close us out of this stream. I'm going to find us someone to raid. And thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Hit that follow button if you're new, because the racing isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Lots of stuff to be had here.
Yeah, looking forward to tomorrow, kind of like you said, corner cutting regular. I think there are a few corners which the drivers are going to have a lot of fun taking advantage of that, especially through that final chicane into the Wall of Champions. But the race we just witnessed, the club division again, these guys are so competitive. We see them come throughout the race, and it's just absolutely incredible to see them super tight. That safety car coming at an excellent time for most of these soft runners. But like Striff said, again, thank you very much to everyone to tune in. It's been an excellent week of racing here around Russia, and we hope you all have enjoyed that one as well as the Canadian Grand Prix tomorrow. But with that being said, go show some love to whoever Striff picks out for the raid here, as it's Friday the 13th. Unlucky for some, but it's been a good evening of racing here. So Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.